All right. And if you're online and you have any questions, feel free to type them in. If you want to speak to me, because you got a microphone, let me know. I'll unmute you. But my name is Michael Devlin, and this is called How to Launch a Successful Real Estate Career. It's also about how to become a California real estate agent. Those are sort of, I couldn't decide, obviously. I was, as to which would be the best title. So I put them both there. What we're going to do is talk about three things. Number one is why real estate. What I mean by that is that if you're willing to take time off on a Monday evening to participate in, well, something like this, right? It's usually because you're looking for something new, something different, hopefully better, maybe in your business or professional life. I'm assuming that's why you're here. And one question would be, why real estate, right? If you were going to do something else or do something different, why would you do real estate? How much money can you make, and what do you have to do to be successful? I'm going to talk about that. If you've decided you want to get into real estate, the next question is with whom. There's different kinds of real estate offices. They operate and they're structured differently. I'll look at some of the things you might find important when choosing one, and then in how to get started. This is what you need to do to get a real estate license. How long does this whole process take, and how much does all this cost, right? We're going to cover. I hope, does that sound like what you came to? I hope so, because I'm going to talk about that. I like to begin with some definition of terms. There's the words broker and salesperson. Now, those two words refer to two different types of real estate licenses. You can become a real estate broker, or you could become a real estate salesperson. There isn't a huge difference between the two as to what you can do. In fact, with a broker's license, a salesperson can do everything a broker can do with two exceptions, right? There's two things that you can do with a broker's license that you can't do with a salesperson's license. Number one, you could be independent. Salespeople have to work for brokers. Brokers don't have to work for brokers. Brokers can be independent. Number two, you can brag about it, right? That's the other thing you can do with a broker's license. You could say to a client, oh, well, I'm sure she, I hear a ringing noise. Maybe it's just me. All right. I'm sure she's going to try hard. Let me see if that was it. Maybe that metal plate in my head. So you might say to, so if you're a broker, you might say, well, so-and-so, I'm sure she will try hard, but you realize that she's got the beginner's license, she's got the starter's license. I have the advanced license. I have the graduate license. Most people have no idea what you're talking about, nor do they particularly care. But you understand that's really all you can do with the broker's license is be independent and brag that you're a broker and not just a salesperson. Then there's the word agent. And the word agent is a relationship. Agency is a relationship where you have one person called the principal and another person called the agent who represents the principal in dealings with third parties. So you might see people walking around here, those are real estate agents. Now, there's a difference between being an agent and being a broker or a salesperson. The reason I say that is this happens often. Somebody will come to me and they'll say, well, Mike, if I get my real estate license, and if me and my husband and I would like to buy an investment property, can I be my own agent in the transaction? I get asked that a lot. And technically and legally, the answer is no. You cannot be your own agent. Because by definition, an agent represents someone in dealings with other people. If you're representing yourself, you're a principal, you are not an agent. It is technically, legally impossible to be your own agent just because of the definition. Now, having said that, I admit that was a technical answer, right? It was a technical answer. And I also know that wasn't really the question they were asking me, right? The question they were asking me is, if I get my real estate license and if we want to buy an investment property, can we save money on the commission? And the answer to that is yes. But it's not because you're acting as an agent in the transaction, it's because you're a licensee. And when we use the term licensee, we're referring to somebody who has either a broker's license or a salesperson's license. And because of that professional status, you could save money on the commission but you are not an agent if you're buying it for yourself, right? You understand? You're a salesperson, you're a licensee, but not an agent, although we oftentimes call everybody agents. Then the word realtor is a copyrighted designation of the National Association of Realtors, which is a trade association, which is kind of like a union, right? It really is, like the Teamsters Union, let's just say. So if I want to drive trucks commercially, do I have to join the Teamsters Union? And the answer is no, I just need the license, right? If I go get a commercial driving license, I can drive trucks. I might choose to join the Teamsters. There are some jobs I won't get unless I'm a union member. They have training and they have job boards and they have staff insurance programs and things like that. But we call our union the National Association of Realtors. And rather than using the word Teamster, our word is the word realtor. So if you're a realtor, it means you've joined the union, the trade association. Now, that's not the same thing as being a licensee. Most people with real estate licenses are not members of the union. Why would you join our union and being a member of the Association of Realtors? And the answer is, if you're going to sell residential property, sell 1 to 4 units, you're going to probably join the union. The key that unlocks homes when owners aren't there, you get that through union membership. The form, software to write contracts, that's all union membership. Access to the multiple listing service, that's a union thing. But if you're doing property management, for example, and not showing homes, you don't join the union. If you're doing loans, you don't join the union. If you're doing commercial, you don't join the union, right? Residential, 1 to 4 units, join the union. So there are 2 ways of getting a license. You could either work for a broker or you could not work for a broker, but you need a broker, right? Now, this makes more sense than it looks, I think, on the screen. Sometimes people say to me, well, I think I want to get into real estate, but I don't really know what I want to do. If I go get a license, do I have to have a broker? Do I have to activate it? How soon do I don't know if I want to do all that. And the short answer is you don't have to do that. You can go get a broker's license, a real estate license, a salesperson's license, and not hook it up to any broker at all. It's called a non-working license, right? And then you could decide later that you want to sell real estate and then find a broker. But you have to understand that a non-working real estate license is like a non-working car, right? You have it in your garage. When your friends are over, you could show it to them. Hey, you want to see my new car? Yeah, nice. And then when they say, can we go for a ride? You say, no, it's not a working car, right? You understand? So you can, in order for you to actually do anything for which the license is involved and earn a commission, you need to be connected to a broker. But there are people that go through my class and they get their license and they decide to get into one of the peripheral industries, title insurance, escrow, something like that, where having a real estate license is not a requirement and they don't want you to be active, but they like it that you've gone through the process. You understand? They go ahead, get the license. It's a non-working license. What can you do with the license? You probably already know you could help people buy and sell residential property and get paid a commission. I bet you already knew that. The same thing is true for commercial. Many times somebody has asked me, they'll start off usually by saying, I don't really want, like people that much. And, I don't like going to people's houses and I don't want to drive around on the weekends and, children. And I don't want to do any of that. 9 to 5, normal business hours, dealing with business people, commercial real estate. That's all I want to do. How do I get a commercial real estate license? And the answer is there's no such thing as a commercial real estate license. There's just a real estate license, right? And if you have a real estate license, you can do residential and you can do commercial. You also can do loans. Our company, in addition to having a residential division and a commercial division, we have a loan division. And you have to, in addition to have a real estate license, you have to get endorsed, which means you have to take a course on loans and pass the test on loans and pay a fee to get a loan endorsement, and then you can do loans too. Property management, a lot of times when we think of that, we think of, you're living in the apartment and, there's that couple, at the end of the hall, the Nazi couple at the end of the hall that writes nasty notes and sticks them on your door, that sort of thing. Well, those are property managers. But in real estate, we're more likely to be talking about an investor who's buying fourplexes. Let's say I'm an investor and I buy a fourplex. Do I want to be the one that runs the ads, gets the phone calls from prospective tenants, answers their questions about it, makes appointments to go show the units to the people that called? They oftentimes don't show up. Negotiate the rental agreements, do the credit checks, get the phone calls when there's plumbing problems or the roof is leaking, right? You understand, if I'm an investor, I don't want to do all that. I just want to get a check every month, right? Isn't that why I bought the fourplex? So I could get a check every month. And come on in. Hello, come on in. I'm sure you could hear me from up there. Yeah. I'm glad you made it. So an investor is oftentimes going to want to know that if you can help them buy the investment property, that you can handle the property management side of it as well. So we have a property management division in our company. And a business brokerage, we also have a business brokerage division, and these are all the things you can do with a real estate license. And what a business brokerage is let's say somebody is selling their hardware store. Let's say there's a little hardware store in the neighborhood, Harry's neighborhood hardware store, right? And you've always wanted to be in the hardware business. So you're going to buy Harry's store from Harry. There's a good chance that Harry does not own the building and does not own the land, right? He's a tenant, he's renting space. So if you buy the hardware store, you're not buying real property because Harry doesn't own any real property. You're buying a business opportunity, which is personal property. And the reason it's on this list is that there are two ways to sell businesses and get paid a commission. One is to have a personal property broker's license from the Department of Corporations, and the other one is to have a real estate license. And if you have a real estate license, you can sell businesses and get paid a commission. Now, in our company, just so you understand, all of these different types require different insurance. There's something called errors and omissions insurance, which is like malpractice insurance that doctors and lawyers have. We have it too. And it's a different policy for businesses because it's a totally different sale. It's a different policy for property managers. It's a different policy for loan agents. It's a different policy for commercial and a different policy for residential. So we have requirements. For example, if you want to do commercial real estate, you have to take this interactive online course, right? You have to go through and answer you have to know something about commercial real estate, and then that unlocks our commercial division and the insurance will cover you. We also have a similar thing for business brokerage. By the way, the commercial involves a different type of an MLS. It's not called the multiple listing service. It's called CoStar. It's like $8,000 a year, way more expensive. Business brokerage has their own listing service. It's not the multiple, it's an entirely different one. They have different forms, right? You know, each one is sort of a totally different industry, right? But we do all of them in our company. What are the advantages of a career in real estate? Why are people attracted to real estate? And the number one reason I've heard over the years as to why people are interested in real estate is freedom and independence. A long time ago, I worked for this strange company. And what was strange, what I found that what was odd about this company is they told us what time we had to be at work each day. It was like they had some sort of a rule, right? That everyone had to show up at a particular time. Right? They let us know when we could go to lunch, right? And when we should be back. And at the end of the day, they let us know when we could go home. Isn't that bizarre? I believe that arrangement is called a job, right? I think that's what that's called, right? A job, the journey of the broke, right? Well, being in real estate is not like having a job. You can look around our office, you can open up the cabinets and the cupboards and the closets, and you're not going to find time clocks for our agents to punch. You understand? We don't call you at 10 in the morning and say, hey, where are you? Right? You know, where are you? Right? It's 10 o'clock. It's not that kind of arrangement. In fact, being in real estate is much more like having your own business. And the people that are most successful in real estate are people that always wanted to have their own business. In fact, it doesn't hurt that you have some business acumen as well. Maybe we'll talk about that more. So, unlike much of the world, being in sales and marketing is not the same as customer service, right? You understand? If I work for a tech company and I'm in marketing, my job is to find somebody who wants to buy the product. I'm not supposed to write the code or do any of the delivery. They would like me to stay away from all that, right? You understand? Not my job. But in real estate, even though we have people that help with us, you're really in a situation where you're doing all of the different parts of the chain, right? You understand? You're in the sales and marketing department. You're also in the customer service department. And my metaphor is like having a seafood restaurant. And you also own fishing boats. Now, it's good to have a nice restaurant, to have nice plates and silverware and linen and people that know what they're doing and a good cook and good ingredients and a nice menu and a good, right? That's all important. But if you don't get out in the morning and go out in the fishing boat and catch any fish, it doesn't matter how much effort you've spent on the restaurant because you have nothing to serve. Right, you understand where I'm going with this? And like all businesses are two businesses, right? Even the dentist business is two businesses. There's the teeth part of the business, but then there's the getting the clients part of the business, right? You understand? Those are two different businesses. And so you need to understand that it's like being in business for yourself, and it involves the whole part of being in business. By the way, you know what the biggest disadvantage to being in real estate is? Freedom and independence, right? Freedom and independence is, have you ever heard there's a phrase, the gift of freedom is not often wisely used? I don't know. So, there's a story about the guy who joins a tech company. It's his first day, he's in the lunch area and he meets somebody who's obviously been there for a long time, telling him everything about what's going on. And so he asks the old timer, how long have you worked here? And the guy says, ever since they threatened to fire me. That's how long I've worked here, right? Yeah, I think somebody gets it. So have you ever known people like that? They work just enough so they don't get fired, right? Isn't that right? And then they're paid just enough so they don't quit. Isn't that great? And they work out the sort of a sick relationship. Well, the thing about real estate is, and I'm going to say it plainly, it's a non-salaried, commission-only profession. Right? Non-salaried, commission-only. That means it can be a high-paying, hard job, and it can be a very low-paying, easy job. It's sort of up to you. Financial rewards, how much money can you make in real estate? Our top agent did about $1.4 million in commissions, ranked among the top agents in the Century 21 system. Not alone up at that mark, but there are many people in the Bay Area, agents that are making $1 million, grossing at least $1 million a year. I'll explain a little more how that works, but I probably can guess what you're thinking when you hear that it's possible to make $1 million a year selling real estate. And you're probably thinking that if that happened to you, you would have no idea how you could possibly spend all that money. Isn't that what you were thinking about? Well, you might not have been thinking that thought right then, but maybe something else. How about this? One of the things you could do with the money is invest in real estate. There's an old saying, buy land, they're not making any more of it, right? Isn't that right? And if you want to be a real estate investor, being in real estate is a good place to be, right? You understand, because you're given opportunities on properties before they come on the market. You know different ways of financing. By the way, our company also has an investment division. What that means is we have a group. If you find a property that's a potential investment for fixing, for flipping, close in 7 days, pay all cash, has the contractors, You would be the agent in the transaction. You could get paid a finder's fee just for bringing the deal. If you could do some of the work itself that was involved in managing contractors, project management, design, that sort of stuff, you'd get paid more. But we actually have an investment division because our agents are running into investors or they need investors, and we encourage our agents to be investors. Right, there's an old saying in real estate that we live on our commissions, but we retire on our investments. Security. I had a friend, San Jose State, mechanical engineering, graduated, went to work at Hitachi. 28 and a half years later, they laid him off. They said it wasn't personal, nothing personal about it. And there wasn't anything personal. They shut down the department, closed the division, they relocated the plant. Right, and I'm not saying he was a perfect engineer. However, it wouldn't have mattered had he been perfect or not, right? You understand? They didn't say, you're not doing a good job. They just said, we don't need anyone to do that anymore in this country. And so the job went away. In real estate, because you're in business for yourself, because it's like being in business, is that you can be bad at it and you can fail at it, but you really can't get fired, right? You understand? You can fail, but you can't get fired. Like if you're doing well and you don't like us, you could just take your license and go to another office. If you can't get along with anyone, you just tough it out for 2 years and then you can become a broker and then you could work out by yourself and not have to talk to anybody. I'm not sure how that's all going to work, but you get the idea. There's some security in knowing that you have control over your future and you're not part of something where somebody else can decide you're not necessary just because. How are real estate agents paid? Now we're coming to the good stuff, right? Isn't this? So I took a cheap house, right? A cheap house, $1 million in Santa Clara County in the month of October. The median price, if we took condos, townhomes, single family homes and threw them all in together, is a little over 1.2 million. San Mateo County, it's closer to 1.4, and in San Francisco County, 1.5. Alameda County, which it's a little under 900,000, but we have offices up there too. Now, the amount of commission, so by the way, some people freak out because I have a YouTube channel and I post these sometimes, and it's my comment that this is $1 million is a cheap house, right? And I'll tell you why. The median price of a house in California is $560,000. And the median price of a home in the United States is $280,000, $290,000. You understand, we are special here, right? Aren't we? I mean, we are, just double California. Yeah, how about that? But anyhow, a cheap house, a median price house. By the way, the average townhouse in Santa Clara County last month was 1.1 million. The median price of a townhouse in Santa Clara County was 1.1 million. So not a typical starter home in Santa Clara County. The amount of commission is not chiseled in stone, not set by law, can be negotiated. Right now, the last 4 I've done, I've been at 6% commission. Right, we're in that market where it takes longer and requires more in order to sell the home. That would be $60,000 in gross commission income. There's 2 sides to every real estate transaction. There's the seller and the buyer. The seller side is called the listing side, and the buyer side is called the selling side. It just is. And although it doesn't have to be that way, the typical arrangement would be they would split it 50-50. Each office would be getting $30,000. Now, if you're a brand new salesperson just getting started in real estate, you might begin your career on a 50-50 commission split because you have to be dragged through your first several transactions and that sort of thing. In which case, if you found somebody who wanted to sell their home and they eventually sold it, you would make $15,000. If you found somebody who wanted to buy a home and they eventually bought it, you'd make $15,000. Can you see an advantage to not only finding the person who wants to buy the home, but also finding the person who wants to sell the home? You just made $30,000, right? That's called being a dual agent, something like that. So how much money can you make? The answer is, how often can you do one of those 2 things? right? If you're doing this part-time and every quarter you help somebody buy or sell a house, that's $60,000. If you step that up to every other month selling a house, that's $90,000. If you just sold one house a month, that's all we ask. One lousy little house a month, that would be $180,000 in gross commission income, just to give you an idea. And I have to admit, it's not accurate, right? It's not. That these numbers are, in fact, well, they're way off, right? They're actually way off. And that's because the more you make, the more you make, right? Now, what that means is, although you might start on a 50-50 split for your first 1 or 2, 3 transactions, that's going to go up to 60-40, 70-30, 80-20. We top out 90-95, right? Depending upon your volume, right? So you understand why those numbers are wrong, because I kept $15,000 as a constant, but in fact, it would not remain constant. And if you're wondering how much it would go up after the different increments, that gives you an idea. That same transaction on a 70% split is $21,000, right? And at an 80% split is $24,000. And if you did not, so if you did 12 of those, by the way, at 1 a month, you'd be on an 80-20 split. You'd be grossing a little over $300,000 in commission income. That's what you would gross, right? The question is, could you live on that? Have to cut back a little, maybe, but you know. So there's a relationship, particularly when you're getting started, between the split and the services. And one way to emphasize this, there's a company that you may have heard of called RE/MAX. I mean, they still exist, but they stopped doing what they started to do. This is how RE/MAX got started. They offered a 100% commission plan. Does that sound great? I sell $1 million house, 3% side, right? That's $30,000. At RE/MAX, I got $30,000. 100% of the gross is what they passed on to me. Does that sound wonderful? You get paid 100% of the gross, right? You might wonder how they keep their lights on at night, right? You understand, let's say I have a shoe store and a pair of shoes costs $150. And I paid the salesperson $150 to sell the shoes for $150. I'm doing something in the back room, right? You understand there's something going on, because how can I do, I'm losing money on every transaction. Well, what RE/MAX did is 2 things. Number one is the break-even number. And the break-even number was taking all of the expenses of the office, the rent, the utilities, the lease of the copy machine, the receptionist, the janitor, every dime, and adding it up every month and dividing by the number of agents. That produced the break-even number. Every agent was given a bill. If every agent paid their bill, the office broke even. Of course, they weren't in business to break even. So on top of the break-even number was the desk fee. And the desk fee would range from $350 a month, you want a workstation, to $3,000 a month, you want a corner office with room for an assistant, you know. And you'd sign a 2-year lease, and you owed them the money whether you sold the house or not. Now, did they have a training program? Of course not, it's 100%. Did they help you with marketing? Of course not, it's 100%. Did they? Of course not, it's 100, you know, what do you expect, right? You understand, it's 100%. It was an executive suite rental business designed for real estate agents. I mean, that's really what it was, right? No training, no support, nothing. It was 100%, right? So you understand how one goes up, the other one goes down. At the beginning, you need training, support, and assistance. Traits of a successful agent, they all begin with the letter E. I just like to point that out because it took me a long time to work it out that way. And what I would like to do is a little bit different, is I'm going to sort of summarize the 1, 2, 3, 4, the first 5 E's. I've asked a lot over the years. People will say, am I going to be a good agent? Will I be successful in real estate? And the truth is, I don't really know. And I was just reminded, I did a coaching session today and I played a video from a TED talk by a woman named Angela Duckworth. I don't know if it's worth. And she's written a book called Grit, Grit. And what she had done is she has a degree in psychology from Harvard and that sort of thing. And what they were studying is what made people successful. And they looked at people that went to West Point. And the idea was, can we predict based upon somebody's past whether they're going to make it in West Point? If they go into sales jobs, can we predict if they're going to be successful or not? If they go, you understand, there's lots of different ones that they were doing. And what they found was that as a predictor of success, it wasn't IQ, right? It wasn't social intelligence or emotional intelligence. It wasn't looks. It wasn't education. It wasn't health. It was something that they called grit, which was the willingness to persevere towards a long-term plan or a long-term goal, to be growth-minded and to keep going at something for a long enough period of time to produce results. Now, the way I've explained this to people oftentimes is the people that are most successful in real estate have a why, they have a reason, right? You understand that there's something, because selling real estate is not complicated, but that doesn't mean that it's easy either, right? And I'll give you an example. A transaction a month, right? One a month, $300,000 in gross commission income, it would be a good start. So let's back up. In order to close one transaction a month, the question would be, how many appointments would you have to have with buyers or sellers in order to close a transaction? Now, your mileage will vary, right, over time. As a new agent, one of the things I do in mentoring people is I'll help them with their appointments. But let's just say you have a 25% conversion rate. Experienced agents have like 75, 80% conversion rate. They talk to 10 people, they have 8 clients. Let's say you're not good at this and you talk to 4 people and you have 1 client. So to close one a month, you're going to need 4 appointments for every transaction. 4 times 12 is 48. If you have 1 appointment a week for 48 weeks, that means you could take a month off, and you close 25% of them, then that would be 1 transaction a month, right? You understand, from 1 appointment a week. Now, in many professions, if your job is about having appointments, 1 a week would get you fired rather than a bonus, because that's not very many appointments. I mean, you're really 1 a week, right? What about 1 a day? What about 1 every 3 hours? You know, I mean, you could, I've gone on more than 2 listing appointments in a day. I've had more than 4, you know, I mean, we're not killing ourselves at 1 a week. But you understand, 1 a week would produce 1 a month, which would produce 300,000 in gross commission income. Yes, the average agent does not have an appointment a week. So now the question is, how do I get an appointment a week? And the short answer is, you're going to have conversations with people about real estate. The way we get appointments is by talking to people about real estate. This is good news in that all you have to do is talk to people about real estate. And the more people you talk to, the more you get paid. You understand? But if you only talk to some people, then you're only going to get paid some. But if you talk to a lot of people, you can get paid a lot, right? You understand? It's a function of how many people you talk to. Well, let's say you talk to, the general rule of thumb is it takes 50 conversations to create an appointment. Again, your mileage might vary, but why not start with that as a goal? 50 conversations, I get an appointment. So how many conversations would you have to have a day with people in order to let's say you talk to 10 people a day, had conversations with 10, not other agents, not your children, right? You know what I'm saying? But 10 potential buyers and sellers of real estate every day, and you did that 5 days a week. That would be 50 conversations a week, which would produce an appointment a week, which would produce a transaction a month, right? 10 a day. I don't know if that sounds like a lot of people to talk to, right? My average is like 10 an hour. So now we create a business plan. So who are you going to talk to? Well, you're going to talk to the people you know because you already know them. We know that about 40% of all real estate transactions come from talking to from being referred by a friend, family, or coworker. 40% of all transactions, when they ask the buyer or seller, how did you end up working with this agent? 40% of the time they say I was referred by a friend, family, or coworker. You need to talk to your friends, family, and coworkers. Then you have to talk to people you don't know, because you may not know enough people to make a career just out of talking to them. Right? You may not, right? So then you might be doing open houses, you might be working business to business referrals, reaching out to vendors, to contractors, to lenders, to other people that are around the real estate transaction, where somebody might go to a contractor first to talk about getting their house fixed up because they're thinking of putting it on the market. Right, something like that, right? So you can build business to business relationships. There's geographic targeting, there's demographic targeting, you get the idea. Virtually anything you can do that puts you into a position where you're having conversations with people will help you sell real estate. That includes being part of a charity or arranging a coat drive at Christmas, or you understand, just about anything you do that it puts you in contact with other human beings is going to help you, because everyone you know and everyone you meet is a potential buyer or seller. I've had people say, I said, so when do you plan on selling your home? And they say, I'm going to die in this home. They're going to have to carry me out dead, and this is what I say. I say, oh, that sounds great. So who's the next of kin, right? Who should I be talking to? When you're gone, how are you feeling? But you understand, at some point, everybody's going to buy or sell a house. Now, remember I talked about the grit and the long term. One of the agents that I recruited, she was working with another broker that was recruiting her and actually doing something, I think, illegal. But she was having her knock on doors and talk to people, which is illegal if you don't have a license. I pointed that out to her. Which is a bad broker to start with, that's telling you to do illegal things even before your license. And she said, well, some of the people would say, well, maybe next year, maybe in 6 months, maybe in 4 months. And the broker just said, oh, just throw those away. We're not interested in those. 70% of all real estate transactions are through follow-up. Right? Do you understand? 70% of the business comes not from making an initial contact, but following up with people. The fortune is in following up with people. So do you understand, you're talking to people, and most of the people you're talking to are not going to buy, sell, or invest right now, but they go into a database, you follow up with them, you keep in touch with them, eventually they're interested in buying or selling or investing in real estate, and you're the one that's still talking to them. What I've learned because people ask me this a lot, am I going to be successful? I'm like, I don't know. The two things necessary to do well in this business is, number one, you have to have drive. I might replace that with grit because, it's the new word. But what that means, you have to be willing to do what needs to be done long enough to produce results. And part of the challenge for us in real estate is that, unlike other professions, it's too easy to get into, too easy to get out of, and too optional while you're in it. My father was an orthopedic surgeon. He was really irritated one year when he found out I made more money than he did, right? This did not seem fair to him, nor objectively to me either, right? I mean, I'm just saying, right? Now, do you understand the difference is, if you go to medical school, you're going to be a doctor, right? You understand, people don't go through medical school or probably engineering school or law school with the idea, I'll try it for 6 months, right? I don't know if I want to be around sick people all the time, always complaining about things that hurt, but I'll give it 90 days, maybe 6 months. And if I don't like it, I'll just go do something else. Now, by the time you've gone through medical school, you're going to be a doctor, right? You understand? Because they weeded out all the other people in organic chemistry, right? The ones that were not not fully committed. You know, they dropped out a long time ago. But real estate is easy to get into, you know, which makes it easy to get out of. Right? So success is because of motivation, because of desire, because of drive, because of grit, because of the willingness to just keep going until things start to happen. The other thing you need to be successful, I said there was two, is a willingness to learn. And I say that's really the most important, one of the most important traits, because getting a real estate license is like getting a fishing license, in that the license does not catch fish. Isn't that right? You can have a fishing license and no fish, right? Because the license doesn't determine how many fish you catch. You have to know how to fish, right? You have to know when to fish and where to fish, how to fish, what kind of bait to use, right? Don't you need to know that? So getting a real estate license doesn't mean you're going to make any money in the business. You need to learn what you need to know. And by the way, it's way more than most people think. Right? Especially people say, well, I bought and sold houses. It's not that difficult. Yeah, wait. It's like somebody saying, I've done my own work on my bathroom. It's not that big of a job to be a contractor. And you're like, okay, yeah, it's the same thing. Right? So what are your options for the different kinds of careers? We have something called a referral only division, which is for people that don't want to invest in the multiple listing service, the board of realtors and that sort of thing. It's about $1,000 and $100 a month. It's coming later. We have teams with mentors that some people want to be on a team. There's pluses and minuses. I have a part-time division, which I call a dual career division, because a significant percentage of the people that I coach and work with have other jobs, other commitments, and real estate is flexible enough that you can kind of do that. And we have full-time, even big-time agents. The top agent in this office, in this branch of ours, is doing about $900,000 in commission income. Right? You know, you could live on that. Choosing an office. There are different kinds of real estate companies. And to some degree, they're changing. There's new ones coming and all of that. And the one type is the national brokerage. A national brokerage would be, I don't know, somebody like Century 21. Have you heard of Century 21 before? We're probably the best name in real estate. We're actually owned by a company called Reology. And that's not a household name, right? Reology. They own Century 21, Coldwell Banker, Better Homes and Gardens, ERA, Sotheby's, Klein Realty, and a whole bunch of others, right? A whole bunch of others. Without any doubt, the largest real estate organization in the world, let's just say they own Century 21 and Coldwell Banker. How about that, right? Which is by itself enough to be the #1 spot when you throw in ERA, Better Homes and Gardens. Oh, you get the idea. Now, the value of working for something that's big is that we have toys, tools, and training, right? We've got all the stuff, right? There's a lot of stuff, right? There's customer relationship management systems. There's programs for making marketing materials. There's stuff. There's training that is necessary to learn how to use the stuff. And you only can get that level of support from large companies, right? It's just the way it is. There are boutiques. And by the way, some of Reology's brands are boutiques. Klein and Sotheby's, there's a boutique, right? So they generally have no training. Serrano in this area, no training, right? You know, if you need training, you're making a big mistake. And by the way, the room we're in right now, when I'm talking to people about joining the office, I show them this room. And we have a room like this in Oakland and a room like this in San Francisco and a smaller room over in our South San Jose. And I show them this room because this is a training room. And I point out that when they were at Alon Pinnell and Coldwell Banker and Intero offices, and that they didn't see one of these, right? In other words, they don't have a training room. And I would ask the person, why does Serrano not have a training room? Why? And the answer is, because they don't do any training, right? You understand? If you have no plans to ever train your agents, then you do not invest in a training room, right? You understand? You only invest in a training room when you're planning on, training people, right? You know, so the boutiques have little or no training at all. They're basically looking for people that are already successful, already know what they're doing, but they want to change the brand, right? That's all. And then there's now cloud brokerages, right? There's Compass and EXP. There's hundreds of them, actually. Those are the two ones that are getting the most coverage. And this is where they don't have, let alone training rooms, they don't have any rooms, right? The training is the thing with cloud, EXP. A long time ago, you guys are all too young for this, but there was an online thing called Second Life, right? Linden Labs in San Francisco, and everybody had their own little avatars, and you could walk around, and it's pretty much died. That's EXP's training, right? I'm not kidding. You create a little avatar. You don't get as many choices as Second Life. And you walk into this, virtual world, and you sit down, and somebody. Anyhow, I use GoToWebinar. We use WebEx and GoToWebinar, but whatever, right? But you understand, there's no physical spaces anywhere, right? It's all in the cloud. That model is only for those that already have their own resources. Just the question, where are you going to meet with clients? Where are you going to print something if you need to print something? I mean, really, those are, but they have low fees and high splits because they have no overhead. Everything, they don't have any office space whatsoever, and everything is online, right? And some of them, Compass doesn't have training. Some of them don't have training. It's a niche field for certain types of agents. So you've heard of Century 21 before. We've rebranded a little bit. I'm not wearing one of my new bling logos. We have 8,000 offices worldwide. We're the fastest growing real estate company in China right now. It's ridiculous. I mean, we have like 40,000, it's just growing dramatically. We're up to about 125,000 associates. Our group, which is called Century 21 Real Estate Alliance, has over 400 agents, and we have 8 locations. Our biggest office is in San Francisco. We have an office in Millbrae, an office in San Carlos, an office in South San Jose, an office in North San Jose, an office in Fremont, an office in Oakland, and an office in Hercules, which is in Contra Costa County. And so we're members of all of the multiple listing services that are in the Bay Area, all the Association of Realtors. And the code that unlocks this door and allows me to print here works in Oakland, works in San Francisco, works in San Carlos, works everywhere, right? And I like that, right? Because you can stop and meet with somebody. Have you ever heard the old line? What are the 3 most important factors in determining the value of a house? And it's location, location, and location, right? And what are the 3 most important factors in determining the value of a real estate office? And it's training, and it's training, and it's training. Right? You understand? Those are the 3 most important things. So we have classes on goal setting. I'm actually doing a class this Wednesday in this very room from noon to 1 on how to protect yourself as an agent when working with investors. If you would like to come noon to 1 in this room, you're welcome to. It will be broadcast on the internet. If you send me an email, I'll send you a link if you'd like to watch it. It's a GoToWebinar link. But we talk about we have a launch program, which is 2.5 weeks long, where we cover all the basics, how to write offers, disclosures, all that sort of stuff, goal setting. We have a program called Accelerate. Accelerate is getting going quickly, working with buyers, working with sellers, goal setting, lead generation, client setting. We have a class on buyers and class on sellers, and then we sort of restart the whole cycle over again. Coaching, training, and mentoring. I provide all of those. Coaching is sort of what you heard me do before when I took an income goal, converted that into transactions, converted that into appointments, converted that into contacts, and then systems to get the contacts. So in coaching, we would talk every week. I have one-on-one and group sessions where, how's it going? What were your results? Anything get in the way? What can we do different? That sort of thing. Training is the most obvious. You're in a room that looks like this or watching me online. It's information dissemination on how to do something. Mentoring is when I get involved in helping with individual transactions. One of the agents that I work for, Shamal, I've gone on 4 listing presentations with her. And so far, we've gotten 4 listings, right? I've talked to her buyers a couple of times on phone because they had some in-depth questions, and I have a lot more experience. So when I'm talking to clients with agents, when I'm meeting with investors or answering questions or going on appointments or just helping out with it, being a transaction partner, that's what we call mentoring, right? And our program involves training, it involves coaching, it involves mentoring. How to get started. If there's any questions, let me know. How am I doing? So there are essentially 3 things you have to do to get your real estate license. Number 1 is you have to complete 3 college level courses in real estate. You don't have to go to college. That's all included in my package. 2, you have to pass a test given by the California Department of Real Estate. And number 3, they being the Department of Real Estate, has to accept you. They do a fingerprint check, right? I'm just saying that it's possible to do the first 2 and still not get a license. Before you can even apply to take the state exam, you have to take a college level course in real estate principles, a college level course in real estate practice, and an elective. The elective can come from anything on this list, 1 from this list. Now, a lot of things on this list I wouldn't have taken, like real estate office administration. I don't think USC was offering that when I was there. But accounting, economics, and business law are on the list. So if you've ever taken accounting, economics, or business law from a junior college or better, and you can get your hands on a transcript, doesn't have to be an original. This is not like applying to Harvard, right? It could be a copy. You've got you've got the 3rd course. By the way, they'll accept accounting from other countries. Why not? I mean, it's accounting. So we use legal aspects as part of our package because it's the one the Department of Real Estate is going to ask those questions about. How would you get these college level courses? Well, you could go to college. Very few people actually do it because it's expensive and takes a long time. Our component for this is an online course. Now, the way an online course, a college level course works is you've enrolled in the course, you log into the website. That's important because it starts a timer. And then after 18 days has elapsed, you're eligible to take the final exam. The final exam is an online final exam. You can take it at home, and it's an open book test. Let me repeat that. The final exams for the 3 college level courses are online, at home, open book, cheat as much as you want to. Final exams, right? You understand? You can cheat as much as you want to. They give you 3 hours to get 75 out of 100 questions right. Did I mention that this is an open book test, right? And the books are PDFs because it's cheaper that way, but it's a searchable document, right? If there's a question about FIRPTA, F-I-R-P-T-A, and you don't know what FIRPTA is, you either do, well, Control F or Command F, depending on your religion, right? And you type in FIRPTA and you hit enter, and pretty soon you're looking at the paragraph that explains the answer to you get the idea. That is not the difficult parts of getting a license, right? The second thing you have to do is pass the state exam. The state exam, closest location to us right now is Oakland. They give it in Oakland, Sacramento, Fresno, Orange County, and San Diego. That's it, right? That's where you have to go to take the test. It's 150 multiple choice questions. A, B, C, D, pick the best answer. No essay, no fill in the blanks, no true false. You have to get 70% of the questions right in order to pass the state exam. Does that sound like a particularly high score to require? You're laying on the operating table, your brain surgeon walks in, and the brain surgeon says, yes, I know, I'm new at this, but don't worry. I passed the brain surgeon's exam. I got 70%. I nailed that test, right? I got 70%. Does that sound great? Right now, no, it doesn't sound great, right? It sounds like you missed more than 1 out of every 4 questions they asked you about the subject of brain surgery. That doesn't sound good, right? You know, the 30% he doesn't know, maybe that's what he's doing to me. My point is, you don't have to be a brain surgeon to get a real estate license. I don't know if you've noticed that, right? But you don't have to be a brain surgeon to get it. All you have to do is get 105 out of 150, right? You get 105 out of 150, 70%, you're in. Having said that, every time the Department of Real Estate gives their exam, they fail more than 50% of the people that are in the room. And by the way, the people they are failing, many of them, they have failed before. The first time failure rate is way over 60%. It's closer to 70%. How do I know? I get a list every week from everybody taking the test. And I can see whose names appear again and again and again. I have met people that have taken the test more than a dozen times, right? They thought they might need a course. Who would have thought, right? So of those people that fail, most of the people that take the state exam fail. What percentage of those people, the ones that failed, were able to successfully get through those 3 online open book, cheat as much as you want to, college courses? How many of them were able to get through those 3? And the answer is they all did, right? Because they won't even let you go take the test until you've done the 3 college courses. My point is, doing the 3 college courses does not mean you're getting a real estate license, right? You understand? It only means you've done the minimum that they require to go take a shot at the test. I have live classes to teach you how to pass the exam. There's 12 of them. They're about 2 hours long. They are held at all the different locations. You can start with, it's like a pizza. It's like a pizza in that there's no first slice to a pizza. Isn't that right? It doesn't have a first twist. I mean, it's just take a piece. Isn't that what you'd say? So I don't have the first slice either. The classes are all taught as independent modules. They don't build on each other. You can start at any point in the sequence. You can take them in any order. You can repeat them as often as you can stand it. Tuesday nights, I broadcast and teach live from our office in San Francisco. By the way, it's not in San Francisco. I know it says San Francisco, but we're not downtown San Francisco. We're at the Park Shore Plaza, which is a shopping center near Lake Merced. You understand? I'm saying it's got a San Francisco address, but we're talking free parking. You understand? This is not downtown. Trust me, we're closer to downtown Daly City than we are to downtown San Francisco. Lake Merced, easy to get to, free parking. I'm just saying. That's Tuesday night. Wednesday night, I'm here in our North San Jose location, and Thursday night at our office in Oakland. And you're welcome to join me at all of them. The options, most people do the live in class. Sort of my thing is that I'm one of the few people that actually teaches classes anymore. Some people find that a good thing, some not. The $498 includes the college level credit, which is 99 out of that goes for the college level credit, and then live classes, a practice testing program, and a Saturday workshop. Right? The webinar only, I have some people who, because of where they live, will never come to a live class. They're in Southern California or things like that, so it's a little bit less. And the Saturday workshop is included in the other 2, but I have some people that buy it as a standalone item because they went elsewhere to get their basics. The course components, the college level course comes from an affiliate called Online Ed. Online Ed is approved by the Department of Real Estate to issue certificates of completion that they will accept so you can go take the exam. I don't do that part. I teach people how to pass the test. And our practice testing comes from a friend of ours called Real Estate Trainers. I'm just saying, that's where it comes from. This is the system. You start the college courses, you go to the live classes, you do the practice testing, you take the Saturday workshop. Those are the moving parts of the course. I have a high pass rate. Virtually everyone who goes through the course passes the exam on their first try. I encourage you to go to a free lesson to come and sit through one. You can see if you like it or not. There's one Wednesday night in this very room. We have placement assistance to all of our locations and a 100% tuition rebate program. which means that if you join the office when you sell your first home, we're going to throw in $498 extra on your first transaction. 100% of the money you paid to go to the school will be given back to you when you join and close your first transaction. The timeline is 3.5 to 4 months. That's because it takes 18 days, 2.5 weeks to do principles, 18 days, 2.5 weeks to do practice. If you have to do the third course, that's another 2.5 weeks. That's 7.5 weeks. You can't apply to take the state exam until you've done those 3. Right now, the Department of Real Estate is taking 8 weeks to give people a test state. And you can't apply until you've done the 3 college courses. 3.5 to 4 months, assuming you have grit and you're doing it. Part of the process is you have to get your fingerprints taken. I get asked a lot. People say, I'm in law enforcement, I'm a teacher, I'm a nurse. The Department of Real Estate doesn't care. Everybody has to go get their fingerprints taken again. They have a form. They don't care. You're welcome to call them and negotiate with them, but you need to understand the Department of Real Estate is a lot like the Department of Motor Vehicles. Right? You understand what I'm saying? You're welcome to call them and be on hold for 3 hours. And then be told that, then they hang up and they transfer you. So you have to get your fingerprints taken. You can do that at UPS stores, postal annexes, many places that are nearby already do it. Send them to the Department of Justice. That takes 6 weeks. That's why it takes 8 weeks to get a test state, because it takes 6 weeks to do the fingerprint check. What does it cost? Here is everything running into it. So the live classes, to take the exam, to get your fingerprints taken, the fingerprint processing fee, the license fee, joining the union, the Association of Realtors, and the multiple listing service, some other miscellaneous things. You're looking at $1,900 to $2,000, not all up once, not all up front. That's what I meant to say, but spread out over usually about 6 months or so as people get started. The only things you can negotiate on that list is the Board of Realtors and the MLS, which is in our referral division, but those are about the only thing. By the way, our average commission is about $25,000. I just thought I would share that number. That's our average commission, $25,000. And if you're thinking about starting a career, profession, or a business, that's not a big investment, right? I'm just saying. Your license is good for 4 years. Every 4 years, you have to take 45 hours of continuing education. The union is offering that for free right now. If you want more information, that's our information. I don't know if you've had a chance to see my Yelp reviews. Yelp is going through a weird thing. The number of my reviews keep changing, right? Not going up, but going down. I don't know why. I was up to 120 some, and it's just fluctuating. The distribution hasn't changed very much. And I have to admit, it is disappointing and discouraging for me to have to share this with you. But you can see the blemish, the black mark on my record. Somebody has given me a 4-star review. Right? I mean, I'm feeling better now. I couldn't sleep for a while, but they've adjusted my medication, and so I've stopped looking for him. But I have relatively good reviews. I don't know if you've had a chance to take a peek at them. Some people really got into it. There are people that took pictures of their license, and some people wrote really long, intricate commentary on what they thought of my class. I've been doing this for a while. And whether or not, the last time, I also have a screenshot from when I had 123 5-star reviews and 1 4-star review. I don't know, that number has changed. But if you read the reviews, I have relatively good reviews. If you want to let's say you want to come to the free class on Wednesday night, you go to my website, drreclass.com. There's a button that says free guest lesson. Click on that. If you want to sign up now, and who wouldn't want to just sign up now? I mean, really, if you click on the sign up now button, what you do is you first hit the green button, and the green button is $99 to enroll in the 3 college level courses, right? And then you hit probably the orange button, which is for the live webinars. You can, if you sign up for the whole package, you can do the webinars You could come live, you get to choose whatever you feel like. And then you don't need to worry about the other two, but you're gonna have to do two things, right? Pay for the $99 college level course, and then pay for the live classes, practice testing program, and the Saturday workshop. And that, I happen to know, is the end of those slides. Are there any burning questions that you have? What have I not said that you wished I had explained?
So for the timelines, when you mentioned it takes 8 weeks for the application, can we start that in parallel to taking the course?
No, no, that they used to do that. The Department of Real Estate used to say that you could apply to take the test, but they wouldn't give you a license until you've done all the courses. They stopped that. And by the way, their movement is to be less friendly, not more friendly. If you read the bulletin, they're proud of how many people they fail, and they want to fail more people. They think that by making the process harder is they're weeding out agents that aren't any good. Now, the reality is their test is not testing what people need to know to be successful in the business. It has no connection to success, but that's just what they do. Now their system is they will not allow you to apply, and they don't want you to do the fingerprint check until you've done the 3 college level courses, right? Because they don't want you, if your form hits their office and it hasn't been processed right, they're very unhappy with you, right? And remember, Department of Motor Vehicles, right? You don't want these people to be very unhappy with you, right? So if you took the form, the fingerprint form, and printed it out and went to a live scan operator, they would take your fingerprints. And they would submit it to the Department of Justice, and they would send it to the Department of Real Estate. And when they see they don't have a license application, they're not going to be happy, right? Because that's what they don't want, right? So that means you're supposed to wait until you've done the 3 college courses before you can even begin that process. They figure most of the people that begin the college courses don't finish them. So they want only the people that have actually, because otherwise everybody would do this their first day and send it in, and then, you know, most of them would never take the test, and then that makes them unhappy with the Department of Real Estate. Yeah. They're planning on making it harder, not easier. There's a bulletin, you can read it online. You got to read what the commissioner says. It's crazy. But I believe, by the way, that it would be better for the industry to have higher standards for bringing people on. I do know that this test, however, is not it, right? You understand? Because I also teach the next sets, and they are not asking questions that you need to know, right? I'm just saying. And the things you do need to know, they're not asking about any of that. You know. All right. Was that good enough? Well, thank you all for coming. Glad you guys were online. If you have any questions, reach out to us. Otherwise, that's it.